Well, I wonder when you think back to the night that you saw in 2020, whether you could have ever imagined 2020 turning out the way that it did. I don't think you could have. I don't think anybody could have. Which has left a lot of us wondering, well, what now should we do? What should we as Christians and as the church do? What should we do? Well, there's lots of things we can do. We can put services online. We can have Zoom meetings or Zoom calls. We can put videos like these online. And all of those things are good and helpful in a year like 2020. But there's something else we can do. Something that we don't really tend to think about. And we're told about it in the book of Proverbs. And it says this in Proverbs 17:17. It says this: a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves, it means that they love unconditionally. They give self-sacrificially and unselfishly to another. But a brother is born for adversity. Because it can be easy to love someone when times are easy, when things are straightforward, when it doesn't really come at a cost. But when life's difficult, when things aren't as they should be, when it's tough, when it comes at a cost, the person who continues to love, who persists in loving, is more than just a friend. He's a brother. He's someone with a deep and personal bond. It's easy to say these things, very easy, and yet the reality is that none of us are naturally good at it. None of us naturally are good friends. We don't give of ourselves self-sacrificially or unconditionally. We don't when times are easy, and we certainly don't when times are tough. And yet the Bible speaks of Jesus, who the Bible calls a friend of sinners. He came and gave of himself self-sacrificially and unconditionally to people who didn't want him. And even when he went to the cross, as he persisted in the midst of adversity, he died for their sin and rose again that he might call them brothers, sealing his people with a deep personal bond. The Bible tells us that Jesus is the true friend and brother of his people. And when we come to him, he is our friend and our brother who persists in the midst of adversity to love us unconditionally. And yet when we do turn to Jesus, not only do we become his friend and his brother, but we become friends and brothers and sisters with all of his people. So that when we turn to him and trust in him and rely on him in his power and by his might, we can be good and true friends to each other, giving unconditionally and self-sacrificially, and even persisting in the midst of adversity here in 2020 as brothers and sisters of each other. There are lots of things we can do here in the church and as Christians, but here's another thing we can do. We can turn to Jesus and trust in him as his people, and in his power and by his might, we can be true friends and brothers and sisters of each other.